Guess what? We're live. Hello. So I am so excited that we are live here to have a chat with some friends and talk about real life in Portugal. If you are just logging in, we're going to take a couple of minutes and give people a chance to get here, get their beverage, make sure that they're ready to hear some real talk about living in Portugal. So if you have a chance, drop in the comments about where you're listening from, and or if you are in Portugal, that would be fantastic. So Todd, Tina, are you ready to have some fun, some good conversation?
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Todd, what are you drinking?
I am drinking, I'm in the island of Crete,
So
off
not
the coast of Greece, and I am having it's called Alpha, but as you can
Okay.
see from the spelling, I don't know how they got it. But very good beverage they have here. So that's what I'm having.
Perfect. So it's great to have both Tina and Todd here. Tina where are you at right now, Tina?
I'm in my living room in beautiful São Martinho do Porto.
Perfect. And that's where, for those that might not know, in Portugal?
So it is about an hour north of Lisbon, right on the coast.
Perfect. And Todd, did you say you were in an island in Greece?
An island in Greece, but originally, or I am from Alcobaça on the Silver Coast, in Portugal.
And so
that's
why,
where
tell
I originally.
everyone, you've got to share, why are you in Greece? What is the reason that you've skipped town?
I'm in Greece because my lovely, lovely wife of 30 years decided to surprise me for one of my bucket list places to go in Europe and take me to Greece and the island of Crete for my birthday.
Oh, that is perfect. Happy birthday to Todd. And thank you for taking time out to do this today, because I know we've got people logging in right now saying hello from all over the United States, it looks like primarily right now. So I think we're going to go ahead and just start chatting. So for those of you that are out there watching, send some questions. If you've got things on your mind, from the littlest piece to maybe the big question you've been looking for an answer for, we would love to just share it from a real perspective. We all live in Portugal, and we've all been here various lengths of time. So we will be taking your questions. And while we're waiting for your questions, we're going to be chatting about some of the things that are going on right now, like the holidays. So Tina, is this your first, Todd, Tina, is this your first Christmas in Portugal or second? Where are you at on that?
For me, it's our second Christmas, but last year we arrived at the end of September. So we were still trying to get our place set up and get our bearings. So we really didn't do too much, but we checked a couple Christmas markets. But this year we are decorated and ready for the holidays.
Yay. And Todd, how about you? Is this your first or second holiday in Portugal?
Well, first holiday in Portugal, first Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Perfect. So what do you think?
The major ones.
What do you think is the big difference? For me, the big feeling about Portugal, it feels more authentic, like people just really dig into the spirit of the holidays and the community. What are you finding about Portugal? Anything that strikes you as significantly different or very similar? How are you feeling, Tina?
I feel that it's not as commercialized. So even, gift giving and things like that are just not as big of a thing here. It's more about, spending time with people and going to the markets and the artisan and the homemade foods and crafts. It's just really warm, I would say, is the best. It's warm.
Absolutely. Todd, have you guys had a chance?
Yeah, I agree with Tina. It's more laid back. It's definitely more family focused. From a work standpoint, around the holidays, even daily, you got longer breaks in the middle of the day, and weekends is about family being together and friends coming together. And just the festivals and the parades around this time of the year are just great. The lights, I've never seen so many lights.
It's different, right? It's like the cities light everything up, but the houses are not as lit up. So it's like the towns or the take care of all the festivities. When we first got here, we decorated our house. We still do. And we're like, you know, something out of Christmas Vacation, like a Griswold. Our house is like all lit up.
Yes.
And everyone in town is like, oh, you're the Americans because you like your house is like on fire with lights. It's funny because they're very mellow with their individual lights, but their towns go like off the charts.
And so many events. Like I can't even keep up with how many just free concerts and art shows and markets. And I have like one thing, I can't even fit it all in, how many just fun things are going on during the holidays. I keep like a calendar just in case I want to do more than one thing. And there's just so much.
Absolutely. So what is something about the holidays that is difficult? Are you finding it anything challenging about being away from the United States for the holidays? Todd, anything that comes to mind?
For me, it's mostly my grandchild and my children. I mean, family. Yeah, I mean, because in the States, that's the one day, these major holidays that everybody gets together and spends time, and you see people you haven't seen for a while. I mean, since I've been in Portugal, my social calendar is off the charts, but you know, you're the family that you're used to seeing, and I've been away for a little over a year now, so that's the hardest part. The first Christmas for my grandson, and not being able to be with all my kids on Christmas.
So what about you, Tina? Is there anything in particular that stands out for you?
No, not really. We always kept it really small. We have a small family. You know, my husband and I are both only children that don't have children. So it made it, you know, a little bit, you know, we've had a lot of visitors. Our parents have come. My mother-in-law's here right now. So I think we took a different approach. We just keep bringing people over here instead of
keep bringing them along.
Yeah, just keep bringing them here to visit. And then we don't miss them so much. It's been really nice.
So it looks like Linda is asking, why did you move to Portugal, and is it a long-term commitment? Todd, why don't you jump in first here?
Let's see. Well, I retired after 40 plus years of working. I always said that I wanted to be overseas, closer to Europe, to visit family and friends that I had over on this side. Honestly, the healthcare system to me is a lot better. The food, the culture, there's just so much. I can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Tina, what about Tina?
Yeah.
How about you? Is it long-term for you?
It is long-term. We are all in. We know we have no intention of moving back to the States. We wanted to move somewhere for peace, a slower pace of life. I was a business owner for many years and worked a lot of hours and retired. And I wanted somewhere where I could just be and it's so peaceful here and warm. The culture is so inviting, and we wanted somewhere we could travel relatively easily. And so Portugal just fit the bill for us in so many ways.
Oh, that's great. And it's true. Absolutely. So Adam has a question here for Tina and Todd. Did you submit documents remotely, or were you in Portugal all the time?
I did everything remotely before we moved here, including buying our house. Yes, everything was done. Yes. Halloween. We did everything remotely. We had assistants. And so that makes a big difference. But I have, follow checklists and get everything, all your ducks in a row, and get the help you need. And we had no issues with doing it remotely, and showed up here and to a house we already owned with things in it already. We were ready to go.
You were ready to go. How about you, Todd?
Yeah, everything definitely was remotely. I think everything we do nowadays is online. But yeah, I mean, what I would say is, utilize the services like Portugal to place, and to help you navigate those questions that you have for what you're not quite sure of. And I mean, do the research. That was a key thing for us. Research, yes. and you really make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's.
Absolutely. You do have to do most of it You have to do most of it in the States before you can arrive, because you can't really, I mean, you can try to do it backwards, but in general, it becomes a huge hassle. If you follow the steps the way they're designed, you will start the process with your US consulate and then go through all the steps and arrive in Portugal. So you will, most people will do it remotely. Okay, so Kim has a question. Did you ever face a point in your stay in Portugal that you ever thought you made a mistake? I've heard the first 6 months are the hardest after relocating, trying to be mentally prepared for all the things. That's a great question, Kim. You know, Tina, what are your thoughts there?
I have never thought that. We've been here, let's see, in September it was a year. And although there are moments where things would get a little challenging, especially in the very beginning when I was learning the language, I still, to this day, will walk into a grocery store even and say to my husband, I am so glad we live here, because there's just something every single day that shines out that just makes me happy that we made the choice. So we have no regrets.
How about you, Todd?
No regrets. The one thing I would say, for me, the only thing that struck me coming here, I thought it was going to be warmer than I thought it was. And I think in the first 4 months I was here, I was in the Algarve before I came north to Alcobaça. And, you know, it was 60, 65 outside. And I forgot, being in construction all these years, that the buildings are built differently. And it's designed to keep the cold in and the heat out. And it definitely did that. So, I mean, I was in a lot of winter gear in my apartment when I first got here. So that's the only negative I can say about that. But as far as ever thinking about not coming or wanting to go back, and if I made a mistake, no, there's just so much liveliness in this country that I wouldn't want to go backwards.
No, that makes sense. And building off of that, Megan's got a question here about the weather. Used to dry winters, being cozy and nervous about being cold all the time. It's just really interesting, because that is something that people talk about all the time. I'm from the Northwest, and I think, Tina, you're from Florida. Mm-hmm. I'm from Oregon. And Todd, where do you call home as where you're from in the United States?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so that's three.
Close to Hershey.
Yeah. Very different. Very, very different areas. For me, it is dry and comfortable and sunny here in Portugal. I am warm and happy and like, yay, it's like sunshine all the time compared to being on the coast in Oregon and in Portland. For you, Tina, you're from Tampa, right? So
yeah, so for me, I was used to, born and raised in Florida, I was used to being, you know, hot as Hades. And I find this incredibly refreshing. I was done with the heat. I was done with running from air-conditioned car to air-conditioned house. And it was terrible unless you were at the beach or in water. So I welcome it. I always generally just have a little light shirt on to cover, and I am very comfortable. I do not find it humid here at all because I'm from Florida, whereas people who are from drier places consider it humid. So that is something to consider, is I find it quite dry. So it's interesting.
And Todd, how about you? You're not shoveling snow, so we've got that established. It's not cold like that. Right.
There's no snow. Very little rain that I've experienced. I was expecting maybe a little bit more moving further north in Portugal, but I haven't found that. To lend to what Tina said, it's not a dry humidity. It's more, I mean, it's dry. It's not a wet humidity. So there's a difference, because I've been in Florida where you walked out the door and you were like soaking wet two minutes later. Yeah, so that's the humidity is not bad. And like you said, Colleen, a lot more sunny days than not. So yeah, the weather is great.
Yeah, the weather is great. It does have, because they build with concrete here, the homes have a tendency to feel cooler than anything we were used to, and the heating systems are different. Once you kind of master how you set it up for yourself and you get your place comfortable, it really is a non-issue. I think there's two places I've always been a little shocked by both directions. One, they don't use air conditioning in the summer in stores. So you think you're going to duck in on a warmer day to like a restaurant or a shop and cool off, and actually they're warm. That's something that takes a little bit to get used to. The shops don't blast air conditioning and keep things like ice cold. And then the other thing is the other way around, like cafes and things won't always have like blaring heat. So sometimes when you go out, some of the more local businesses or smaller places, you'll keep your coat on when you're having a coffee, that kind of thing. So it takes a bit to get used to, but I think we all adjust. Okay, so Megan has another question. Families with kids, are you finding a lot of younger families are having a community around expat kids? I see it a lot on Facebook groups, but are families feeling isolated? I'll take that question, Megan, because I know that working with so many families with children, we are finding people connecting and having amazing experiences within communities of people with different age children. So little tiny ones up to teenagers. We've got people moving through the international school system, and they're in the public school system and everything in between. And the one thing I'm finding is the parents have a different cadence and a different schedule here. And that allows them to support their children in connecting and finding those extracurricular activities in those communities. And the one thing the expat or immigrant communities do really well is source out, find their own, and then support each other and kind of move together. So like Tina, you've seen our events. You've gone to a couple now where, I mean, we have people all ages, families
Yes.
all around, and we've got communities of kids and families connecting. It's something that I'm really proud of in Portugal, the place community, that we have so many people connected, but also it's happening across Portugal and the different groups that find each other. Daniel, so I'm sorry I missed the first couple minutes. Do we know where everyone lives? So I live in Alcobaça, as does Todd. Yes, Todd's my neighbor by like 5 minutes. And so, hey, he's in the top square. And then Tina, you are in?
São Martinho de Porto, which is on the coast, just about 15 minutes from these two.
Yeah, so we're all in the Silver Coast right now. Yeah. But Todd, you were in the Algarve first, right?
I was in the Algarve, way too hot. I mean, for some people to love beach life and being in the water, and surfing and just soaking up the sun, it's great. But it's like being Florida and Georgia in the dead of the summer.
All right.
Or Texas, South Texas, yes.
I get it. I think I just saw a question jump up, but I missed, it went up and came down. Leonard, understand there's a big issue about mold in homes and apartments. How do you deal with that? Well, I think this is really interesting because we hear this is like the big issue that's talked about that most of us aren't really dealing with. From my perspective, when we're helping people find rentals or homes for sale, the big thing is aspect of your home. If it gets natural light, if it has ventilation, if it's got sunshine all the time, you're going to have a completely different experience than if you buy or rent a north-facing older home. That's where a lot of the issues come in. You can be in the same building and the south-facing one is cozy and warm and dry, and the north side of the building is like a whole other experience. So I think sometimes when people talk about their homes having mold issues or dampness, there's either two things going on. It has some kind of water infiltration, some issue that hasn't been addressed, or it could be the aspect of the home. Tina, how about you? You've been in your place now for over a year. How are you feeling about, you live on the coast too, on the water.
Yeah, we live on the coast. We can see the water and we do not have any issues with that. But we make sure we are always ventilated. I don't keep it closed up. Right. I always, even when we're gone, I will crack something to just kind of keep some air moving. And that seems to be working just fine. We've had no issues at all.
And Todd, how about you? You've navigated a couple of different places. How are you feeling about the conversation?
The same thing. Ventilation is the key when it comes to mold. And what I've told people in the building we're living in right now, if you can see blue skies, very little clouds, no cloud cover, open your windows. I mean, and let airflow come through, and shut your windows at night this time of the year. Any other part of the year, if the weather is decent outside, just open things up, because like you said, depending on what part of the house you are, you're going to have different temperature variants. The other thing is the dehumidifiers. Whether you have it in the heating systems that are in the homes here, which they call mini splits, so they do air conditioning, heating, and the dehumidifier. dehumidifying, or
I
you
think
buy
we have one on the
dehumidifiers.
wall. Do we have one on the wall behind Tina? I think Tina has one on the wall right
Yes,
behind. Yeah, there
We
we go.
do, we do use it. We will
Yeah.
put on, especially
And-
if it's kind of a rainy night out, and we will sometimes close everything up and just turn the dehumidifiers on. It's colder than the air conditioning.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so issue about lack of insulation in the construction. Well, it's a different kind of construction. So insulation isn't the same thing. They don't roll it the same way. Concrete construction is built differently. It depends on the year of the house. So there is insulation on homes. There's something called caputo, which is an outside exterior insulation that is sealed around the concrete. There are layers of insulation, foam insulation that they put above and below. It depends on the year of the construction. Older buildings built before 1990 for sure. A lot of times you're going to find those with just concrete without insulation. But as it moves into the 2000s, they've advanced and they now use insulation in the building codes and requirements.
in everything. All the new builds, probably 2017 on or better. Yeah, there's insulation from the outside in. And
Absolutely.
anything before that, like you said, yes.
Yep. It's the older stuff you've got to be careful with. Linda is asking about, did you move your stuff? Oh my gosh. So yes, I moved my stuff. I moved a pallet over, had it shipped door to door, and used a moving company that stored it until we were ready to have it shipped. I did about 45 boxes. And the one thing I can tell you from my own lived experience is I wish I would have brought more of my stuff. I bought into the Kool-Aid of like, you can't bring anything, get rid of everything, do all that. And I got rid of artwork and keepsakes and books. Oh my gosh, my books. I still have like book pain. And then I got here and I realized, who was anyone to tell me that I couldn't bring something? Like really, these groups that say don't bring anything except the stuff on your back, or it's just crazy. Bring what brings you joy. That's what I can say, is just bring what brings you joy. How about you, Tina? You brought a fair amount of stuff, right?
I did. We did 3 pallets, and our criteria was it needed to be important to us. It had to have sentimental value, or be irreplaceable here. Certain things you just can't get as easily here that we wanted to have. And one of the pallets was just artwork. I mean, our place is covered in art, and we love our art. We travel to find art, and we were not giving that up. And books and certain kitchen things that were very meaningful to me. Also clothing. I was particular about my clothing, and I didn't want to start trying to figure that out right away. So we kind of did a starter palette of things also that were things that I eventually will probably be able to get here. But I wanted some things that made me feel comfortable right away.
So Tina, you want to explain, you did 3, how the pallets worked for you?
Yes. So we did 3 pallets, and they were great. I used a company. They sent me the 3 pallet things. You build it. I ended up with 131 boxes, and they sent them out. They took 3 months to get here, but perfect schedule. By the time we were here, they were about a month behind us, and they showed up, delivered it right to our garage, and we unpacked, and I was so happy to see it. It's really nice.
For that last question, a pallet is a pallet. You stack your boxes up on a pallet.
A pallet, yes.
And so it's not a shipping container or a half container. It's actual pallet that gets shrink wrapped all the way around.
Yes.
And then they put those in a shipping container with other people's things. And then it all comes over and gets delivered to you.
Correct.
And Todd, did you guys do that as well? Did you ship your stuff, or are you still planning to ship your things?
No, all of our stuff has been shipped over. Yes, we used a company, U-Pack, we ship, and we did the same thing. It was a pallet that we built and wrapped ourselves and put all the postings on. And then what that does is go to distribution center, and then what they do is, like you said, they'll take several people that are having stuff shipped, put it all in a container and ship it. Now, we use the pallet because we, like Tina said, just things that matter to us, the kids' artwork, the photo albums, the art we love, family heirlooms, things of that nature. I do agree with you, Colleen. I wish we would have brought some of the cooking stuff that we used in, because they tell you you can't use the American stuff because the plugging system is different, but you can always buy adapters for those things. So don't use that as a reason not to bring things if they mean something to you.
Well, it depends. That's a great lead into Megan's question about the converters. It's tough to use a converter on an appliance if it's drawing a certain amount of power. There's two different kinds of things we're talking about. Some appliances have universal electrical systems, and you can switch out the actual electrical cord to a European plug. That's fantastic. But if you have like an old Cuisinart that has a regular American plug and you try to put a converter on it and plug it in the wall, it will the motor will eventually burn out because it's not getting the proper electricity. So you only really want to look at things that have a universal type of a system where you can get an adapter. So converters don't last for the long time. You can't be just using things on a converter for in perpetuity. But if your item has an adapter ability to change it, then that would work. So what about moving furniture? Well, you can, absolutely. People move half containers, full containers. One of the biggest things I think is really interesting is the fact that our rooms are different shapes in the United States from Europe, in Portugal. So a bedroom in the United States is square most of the time, 10 by 10, 12 by 12. You know, it's like a square. And so our beds fit according to the size. They kind of build them with that in mind. Most bedrooms in Portugal are longer and more narrow. So they don't usually have the same aspects or perspective for your measurements for your bed. So when people want to bring an American king size bed frame and bed, oftentimes they're frustrated because it doesn't leave a lot of room at the end of the bed because the rooms are longer and more narrow than square. So yes, you can bring furniture, but wherever you're going, make sure you know your measurements because you might be a little frustrated by how it fits in your new space. Todd is asking. Todd, I'll let you answer. Todd, answer Todd. What do you think? Do you have a second home in the U.S.?
No. We sold the home back home, and we left everything behind back there. Yeah, it was a fresh start for me.
Perfect.
Going into the next part of my life. So.
We did the same. We sold our home and everything we owned. Yep.
Same for us. We sold our home and everything we own. We don't have any ties to the States any longer. So Linda's asking, is there a way to connect with expats if a person is going to Portugal for an exploration visit? Well, I will take this question. This is a great question, Linda. If you come with Portugal to Place and you do our location immersion experience, you will have a chance to meet with people just like Tina and Todd. We actually include that as part of our immersion experience so that you don't just go looking at wineries and castles. We don't do that. We get you to the neighborhoods. We teach you how the markets work, the gas station, the pharmacy, and we make sure you sit down and chat with people that are living here. And you have a chance to have coffee or lunch and just talk about what concerns you and what their life's like and get to know people. It's part of what we offer. Any thoughts on bringing your car? Leonard, this is such a loaded question. Boy, people have a lot of opinions about this. None of us, I don't think any of us brought our cars, right? Hi, Linda.
No.
So people talk about bringing their cars all the time, but you have to weigh the cost of doing the shipping, the expenses, the inspection, and any modifications you need to make sure that the car fits the European qualifications against buying a new car. So if you have like a average car without anything particularly, exciting, like it's not an antique or some kind of special sports car, more often than not, it's a huge headache to go through shipping it, the inspection and the modifications than just buying another one when you get here. Because yes, cars are more expensive here, 23% VAT is included into the price. And so you're going to see an average pre-owned car, for example, is going to run between 20 and 25,000. But by the time you take the car you own and you pay 10,000 plus 5,000 plus 3,000 plus another 2,000, the numbers start to add up. And at the end of the day, unless it's a very special type of car, very few people find it a savings. It usually is more hassle than it's worth. So Nobody has so far. We've shipped motorcycles. People don't want to get rid of motorcycles. They have a huge passion for their Harley Davidson or for their Indian, one of those kind. And we've had a couple Porsches come over. I will have to say they were not giving those up at all. But most people don't ship their kind of average working.
I'll say on
One
that
person-
is cars are different sizes. So
Yeah.
for example, the cars we had in the States, I loved my car, but honestly, it was too big for here. I would never make it through some of the streets in some of the old towns, and there's plenty of wide streets here, but there's also plenty of narrow. And we knew we needed a smaller car to live here because it's just a smaller lifestyle, smaller kind of footprint.
Well, you get to go to so many more cool places if you can take your car into the centers or on some of the roads,
Yes.
It definitely, it's good, especially if your car if you have all the bells and whistles that they need here. Here in the States, sometimes they felt like a little overkill. Here, those side cameras and those hazard warnings are very appreciated when it's telling you how close you are to the wall. It's
Yes.
or you turn them off. So William is asking if to define the Silver Coast. So the Silver Coast is a marketing definition, and so it gets a little muddy in the definition. But the original definition of the Silver Coast is the District of Leiria. So that means it starts from the border of the Lisboa district and the Leiria district, which is Peniche, and it goes north to Leiria, which is the top line of the Leiria district. Everything above that is considered central Portugal. So a lot of times other cities farther north will tag on to the Silver Coast because they know people are looking for that. So Aveiro, Ovar, Espinho, even Porto sometimes is advertised as the Silver Coast. But the true definition of the Silver Coast is from Peniche in the south to Leiria in the north. So that's the definition where it started. Oh, Nicole, our favorite question, because sitting just on the other side of my camera right now is our new puppy who we just got today. His name is Aladdin, and he's a Newfie-doodle that's 6 months old, and he's sleeping right in front of me right now. But yes, we brought over a 125-pound Newfie-doodle named Dutch, and we flew him over, and it was one of the most scary processes for us because it just was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? We did it before they had the private jet service. So we had to do cargo, and he had to go through Frankfurt. He had to stay in the pet hotel there and then get transferred on into Portugal. And it was a lot of moving parts. So glad we did it. But it was a very stressful, probably the most stressful part was getting our big, huge dog over here. Tina, however, she came in after me, and she had a whole other way of doing it.
Yes, we have an 11-year-old dog. He's looks like a black lab, and we brought him over the private jetway because my dog was born very nervous, and our vet even advised that if we brought him any other way that he probably would have a little heart attack because he's a very nervous dog. So we did decide that he was worth it, and we brought him over via private jet. It was still stressful and coordinating everything, but we did get some help with working through the process of the paperwork, and it went smoothly. It really did.
Yeah, it is for cats, dogs, straightforward animals, I would say. You can, if they're small enough to go in the airplane with you, it is about making sure you have the vet paperwork. You can make sure you get that plane ticket, in advance so that there's space for you and your pet on the plane. If you plan to bring your pet through cargo, one of the questions people have all the time is, can they give them medication to calm them down? And absolutely not, because it's a breathing issue. They're very, very, very cautious about what they'll allow the animals to have in cargo. But cargo is not cargo like it's the hold. It's completely pressurized. It has light. It has heat. It is a completely separate area. It's not down with the suitcases. They're in a very safe place. So it's hard. Sometimes people think of them in the dark, down in the really loud, and that's not the case. But if you are anywhere where you have to take a connecting flight to get to Portugal, so if you're on the West Coast, you have to take a connecting flight, for example, you really have to coordinate because they will not ship the dogs. They will not allow the dogs or the cats on the tarmac if it's over 80 degrees. because of temperature concerns and if it gets too cold. So we really advise people working through their schedule and trying to get on nonstop flights if at all possible. It's the connections that cause people the most challenges.
And I think it's about knowing your dog's temperament also. You know,
Right.
our dog that our other dog that was, you know, could have made the trip, but unfortunately didn't because he had passed right before we came. He was a very chill dog. He would have had no problem going in cargo, and I wouldn't have had a problem with it. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I don't want someone, you know, thinking that I've seen that before where, oh, you can have to go private now. No, you don't. You know, you need to know your dog. I knew my dog. And then, you know, if your dog is chill and calm, I think it's a great way to go.
And then other animals as well. You can ship birds, you can ship horses, you can ship a variety of animals. The hardest one to work through is reptiles. They're very, very strict about snakes because they don't want them, of course, getting loose in Portugal. So Leonard is asking about, he's a long distance cyclist and wants to know what areas would be preferable to leave. What areas would be preferable to leave? So I'm thinking, Leonard, you're asking about areas that would be good to be cycling in. I'm
I
guessing.
think he means to live.
Yeah, maybe to live. So for cycling, Portugal is one of the countries in Europe that embraces cycling as a lifestyle. It is where they make millions of bikes here every year. It's one of the big producers of bikes. And so long distance cycling options are varied and plentiful. There are private, like separate cycling trails and bike paths that run adjacent to the Atlantic Road that you can literally go for miles and kilometers on. There's support for cycling all over the country, but we see a preponderance of our cyclists really loving living in the middle of, thanks, Leonard, for living in the middle of Portugal, from the Central Coast down through the Silver Coast and the Lisbon kind of Cascais area. And then, of course, the Algarve is very popular for a lot of people that love cycling. Okay, and how Megan is asking me about my language. Oh, I wish I could have a better answer for you because I feel like I'm not doing well. I am doing better than I had been, but I still feel like I keep plateauing, and I have yet to be able to take any classes because we're kind of busy with the business. So my language is coming along slower than I would like. But Tina, how about you? You get to take classes.
Yes, so it's coming along rather well, but we do one-on-one private tutoring for my husband and I, and that seems to be working well for us because she tailors it to us. So we are to a point when we can read it no problem, and we can understand a good part of what people say to us, and unless it's too quickly, but we know how to ask to say slowly, and then I usually can catch it. And then the speaking was pretty good. I do get corrected sometimes on the feminine versus masculine and the weird things like that because we don't have that in English. But the thing I will say is we know enough to get by, and even when we didn't, there were no issues. I find that sometimes I have to tell people to stay in Portuguese because they want to go. As soon as they hear you speak English, they'll be like, "Oh, English." I'm like, no. Like, please help me. I'm trying to learn. So it has not been a hindrance at all. I do think that I enjoy being able to speak it and communicate more, though. I'm very grateful that I'm learning, and I look forward to being fluent one day.
How about you, Todd? How's it going?
Well, I find for me, because I had a Latin base, being able to speak Spanish and study in Spanish, that helps me. I can read the language a lot better. I can, my speaking of it, myself and my wife, we've been very busy since we got here, so that's coming slow. But I do find that the local people here will help you if you're saying things wrong. They even, to lend to what you said, Colleen, will want to speak the English to you because they get excited about practicing their English.
Yes.
So it's a two-way thing. Everybody helps. It's not uncomfortable, and So I mean, that's how mine's. Yeah.
How frequently do you meet with your tutor, Tina?
We are weekly. We were doing every 2 weeks, and we found that it actually overwhelmed us too much, and we seemed to take it in better when we did weekly. But you'll just have to find what fits for you. But we do weekly, and that works for us.
And I practice. I mean, I know I'm getting better. I'm the same about reading. I can't read a novel yet, but I can read through paperwork and signs and things like that, and understand when I'm able to concentrate. What I'm finding is the second my concentration is broke, if I lose the train of what someone's saying, it's hard to get back into it. Like I have to be very, very focused to understand what people are saying. And the second it becomes like a conversation where people are talking really fast back and forth to each other, I'm like, whoa, okay, hold on. And the feminine, masculine, man, that one, just trying to ask for tea the other day is like, sha preto. No, sha pre. And by the time he's like, you black tea, right? I'm like,
yes. Yep.
Because like I said, most of the time they know what you're saying and what you're trying to say, and you don't have to worry about saying it wrong, because they're more than willing to help you pronounce it right. It's not like, oh, it's American, I just don't want to talk to them. It's
and they're so grateful that you're trying. Honestly, I have so many times saying, I'm so glad you're trying. Like they, because I'll even say, I'm sorry, I'm messing this up, and that nope, I'm so glad you tried, because a lot of people don't try.
Well, one of the questions I want to throw out there that might be just feel a little abrupt, because we've been kind of talking in a very fun way. We get a lot of comments on social media, fairly from Portuguese people, to be fair, saying that they're concerned about us moving here. Are we affecting the local economy in a negative way? Have we considered our impact on the housing situation? I'd really love your take on it, you guys, on how you feel about living here and being part of Portugal and seeing what's going on here from a local perspective. How are you feeling? How have you been welcomed? Has it been something that you've had conversations about? I'll toss this to you first, Todd.
I find I've been accepted. People are just great here. I mean, they're helpful. I really have nothing. Remember, you just talked about train of thought. I just lost the train of thought. I'm sorry. What was
I'll let Tina take it. I'm just going to ask Fiona to drop Linda's question. There we go.
Right.
What about you? Have you been here for a little longer? How do you feel about our impacts on the community and Portugal at large?
So it's interesting because, one of the reasons we chose our specific beach town is because it is more Portuguese inhabitants than some of the other beach towns that are a little bit more international. And, for example, my nail salon, I'm the only English speaking person that she has. Everyone else speaks Portuguese. So I get an opportunity to speak with her. And what I've noticed is our impact to them and what I've seen is that they appreciate that we bring in, some additional money. But I think that they don't appreciate some of if it's flashy, if we are, trying to be that we have more money than they are, they do remind that, they're a poor country but they're so grateful that we love their country and they're so welcoming. And they're almost, I get from at least the people I talk to, flattered that why Portugal? Like, why do you love our country? Because we love our country. And they want to embrace that because we're embracing them. So we've never had anything negative. It's just an interesting, I ask a lot of questions. I'm kind of a nosy person. So I'll ask them about, what do you think about these things? And that's really it. They're very welcoming. I think that they do like the financial things. And I don't get a sense that they blame us for the housing market. I think that is a line that I've heard a lot too. But in talking with them, I think they understand that that's just an overall the way the world is going and things are just getting more expensive. And I don't get that they blame us. I've never had anyone say that. Even people who know, where I live or anything like that, they've never been anything but understanding and friendly.
So do the presenters all plan on applying for citizenship after 5 years of residency? So yes, that's one of my stressors over the language is I am getting very close to where I need to get my butt in gear and actually get my language accomplished, because I would love to be able to have the honor of being a Portuguese citizen, and I'm very close to being able to apply. So my husband and I are both our intention is to be able to do that. And how about you, Todd? Are you working towards that, or?
At the moment, I'm going to have to see where my language skills, which is going to be part of being able to get to citizenship, see where I'm at that 5-year mark. Right now, I'm happy enough with being a resident and a temporary resident, and yeah, we'll see where we go from there. But my plan is to be in Portugal until I die. So I mean, one way or the other, I'm going to be a citizen. Just from the legal aspect of it, I'll just have to wait until I'm closer to the 5-year mark.
And Tina, you're the one that's on the good track for
Yes.
And are you guys intending to apply? And
Absolutely. Yes, we are working hard on the language. We want to be fluent. We really want to immerse ourselves as being part of the Portuguese culture and not take away from it. Like I said, add to the language, add to the lifestyle. And we have Portuguese friends, which makes me so exciting, because I hear, before we moved here, we heard how hard that is to make Portuguese friends, and we've made, a variety. So we really love it here, and we want to become citizens.
And I think the Portuguese friend and the Portuguese culture piece, it is, you get what you give. I really believe that if you put your neck out, if you say, stumble through whatever Portuguese words you have, if you make yourself available and open, it will come back to you. Because Portuguese people, of course, at first there's a separation, they're the language barriers, whatever. But as we've lived here, we've just developed some amazing friendships with our Portuguese neighbors, with people that we've got to know through businesses, and they're there for you. It's interesting, because the first time I ever lived on a continent that was at war is when the Ukraine war broke out, and I'm living here in Portugal, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is scary.
Yeah.
I've never been here. And my neighbor, who's my good friend, Miguel, I was like, should we buy a farm? Should I start to figure out how to grow things? Do I need a cow? Is the supply chain going to be broken? Are we not going to have anything? And he was like, first off, calm down. It's as far away as Los Angeles from New York. It's the other side of Europe. And secondly, he was like, we're all together. He said, if something bad happens, he said, all of us support each other. We support our community. We wouldn't let you be without food or shelter. It's part of what and who Portugal is. And it really grounded me on the fact that, in my experience here, the Portuguese have gone out of their way to be welcoming and help us adapt and learn how to live here in this country, and really make us feel not alone. And I think that's been a huge part of our experience. Definitely. Gail, returning to the subject to moving over, what do you wish you had brought more of, or wish you had purchased for use in Portugal? Well, Gail, that's a great question. For me, I wish I would have brought over more measuring items that are in the imperial system, because if you didn't bring them, you're going to buy everything here in the metric system and then be converting all your recipes. So definitely pack anything if you intend to cook, bake, whatever. All the measuring things, those are hard to get here in any other system than the metric system, for sure. So that for me was something I wish I would have packed more of. How about you, Tina?
Gosh, I can't really think of anything. I had 3 pallets compared to your one. So but I will say I read a lot of the posts. There's a lot of posts that say, the same question. And I scoured those posts every time they came out, and I would just start making notes of things. And I just compiled my own list and really made a good amount of, like you said, I did bring over my measuring cups and my measuring spoons, and because I'd seen someone say that before. So that's my advice to someone is look at those lists and see what's important to you when you look at that.
But be careful about packing all of your baking sheets and baking pans and all that.
Small oven.
Small ovens. They don't. The standard oven in Portugal is a completely different configuration. So lasagna pans, baking sheets, they don't fit. You're just plan on buying them again here because they're completely different shape. How about you, Todd? Anything you wish you would have had in your stuff?
Oh yeah, seasonings. My favorite seasonings. The seasonings are fresher here, but there's certain ones that I could get at home I can't get here. Different comfort foods, your chocolates and things of that nature. I would have stocked up on more of that and brought it over. Two big ones for me here as being a big guy: clothing. 2X here and 2X in the States is two completely different things. Shoes. Where are
Yeah.
my shoes? I mean, I got rid of a lot of clothes and shoes because the sizes are different. If you're 12 in the States, you're 47 here. And so the measure, like you said, the measuring systems are off, whether it's your feet, whether it's milk and ingredients for cooking and baking. So it's things like that. Clothes, especially for me.
Yeah.
we
Because
And
there's
brought
a
a lot
big
of
difference
clothes.
between you.
and
Yeah.
packing sheets. Don't pack sheets if you plan to have a bed from Portugal. Beds are a different
They
shape
won't fit
here.
you.
Yeah.
We
So
we
That
did
is
bring towels though. We
towels,
had
yeah.
really thick, nice towels we'd had. We did bring those and we love them because they're just not as thick here that we
Yeah,
found.
they don't have the thickest ones here, but the sheets throw people off because they pack their queens and their
Different
kings,
size.
their pillows. Pillows are a different size. The beds are like 140 by 180 or 160 by 200, and so you
Yep.
have to buy sheets here if you're planning on using a bed from Portugal for sure. I think I just saw a question pop up. How did you deal with deciding what clothing to take? Well, mine was a total fail. Mine was a total fail. I packed stuff. I don't know. I thought I was going to need evening wear, and I have no idea. It's the most casual lifestyle here. Like, I packed way too dressy of clothing, and like had my husband make sure he had suits and stuff with him, and like I don't know what I was thinking. It's definitely really much more casual. And shoes, I should have just ditched any of them that didn't have the soles for walking on the calzada, the sidewalks, and all the hills and walking. So from a woman's perspective, having sturdy, stable shoes, it is a little bit of a moment when you see your pretty delicate shoes kind of be like, well, I guess I don't need to wear those very often anymore. And now you're in like practical shoes. But how about you, Todd? How did you decide which ones had to come with you?
Just some research, knowing how the roads were going to be. A lot of
Yes.
cobblestones. Yeah, you have a lot of unpaved roads and things of that nature. So yeah, like hiking boots, I knew I would need because I'm an outdoor guy. I just love being in nature, and I checked the weather too, so I knew I would need mostly light winter stuff. So I
Yeah.
got rid of a lot of my big, heavy -20-degree coats. You don't need those. And so I found for me anyway, it's jeans and t-shirt and maybe a light jacket most of the time, or shorts and t-shirts and sandals. So yeah, but yeah, research it was
Yeah.
for me.
Definitely. What do you think? Just so, a question just popped up and then it just went down. Adam asked, what areas in Portugal have the most diverse communities for expats? Wow, diverse as far as a variety of immigrants from all over the world. They're spreading out across Portugal, but of course, Lisbon is always going to be the most diverse area. It is the capital of Portugal and one of the, kind of foundational areas for people moving from all over the world. But what we're seeing are people like our friend group are here on the Silver Ghost, are people from all over the world: Australia, Belgium, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa. People from every walk of life and background are moving in the same circles. So, Porto, the Silver Coast, the Algarve, and the Lisboa areas, those are the main concentrations of people from backgrounds from different parts of the world. But Coimbra, all the way north to Viana do Castelo, all over, you're finding more and more diverse communities because Portugal is really a destination for people from across Europe as well. And what are the pros and cons of residency versus citizenship? So, Linda, on residency versus citizenship, the one key difference After your 5 years of having your temporary residency, you can apply for either permanent residency or citizenship. The key difference is one is for 10 years and you reapply for another 10 years. You continue to renew that. The other is citizenship, which means you are a citizen, you have the right to vote, and you are a citizen. There's no longer any application process. So the key difference is if you want to continue to renew your residency or if you just want to go straight for citizenship and then just call it, and this is where you've decided you want to be. You don't have to do either. You can renew your temporary residency visas as well. There's different ways to go, but most folks are working towards that EU passport. Most folks are looking to get the Portuguese passport, as that gives you the benefits of traveling throughout and living throughout the EU as well. Leonard, is it best to start taking language lessons while still living in the States? For this question, I'm going to just jump in and say, I think it's wonderful if you want to start and you have the time, but don't beat yourself up if it comes to if it's difficult. Most of our clients have said that as they've tried to take it in the US, it hasn't really transferred when they've come, because if you don't hear it, if you're not living in it, if you're not immersed around it, it is very hard to manage the pronunciations and the interpretation of the Portuguese language. It is so different in person than when you're trying to learn it in like on an app, or if you're trying to do it where you're not listening to it all the time. Getting familiar with it, taking it definitely is something that's good, but don't beat yourself up if it's not coming to you quickly, because it is not a language that's going to, for most people, just come naturally until you are in the country and you can actually hear it around you all the time. So, and make sure if you do take it at stateside that it's Portuguese, European Portuguese, not Brazilian Portuguese. Let's see.
That's what I was going to add.
Yeah, because the Brazilian is very, in my opinion, the Brazilian Portuguese is a much easier to tackle. So get that European Portuguese. Megan is asking, she's a mid-career in marketing and events and don't want to have to continue with a remote job in America for longer than a few months, as I want to perhaps own my own business or work locally in the EU. Are there any tech hubs or opportunities for work on the Silver Coast? Not really. The tech hubs, the Silver Coast is not known for that. The tech hubs in Portugal would be Lisbon, Porto, and Braga. Those are the main areas, with some in Coimbra. And jobs here are, it's a difficult job market. So that's not something that I would think is going to be easy for you to navigate. You may be able to find jobs, remote jobs within Europe, perhaps, like with other countries, Spain, France, other places where you live in Portugal and work for them. But the Silver Coast itself, this is not one of the things people should be planning to come to Portugal and be able to find equivalent kind of work opportunities to what they would be getting in the United States. And Jazz is asking, do you offer more family-centric webinars for families with young children looking to gain insights? Absolutely. So after the new year, so this is our last seminar of 2024. It's so exciting. We put up our Christmas tree today. So yay, we were here and we got that done. We are going to do a series of these throughout next year, inviting folks from all different backgrounds, such as Tina and Todd, and we have families and people from every kind of experience here to have these conversations. So we've done them before and we had a great response. So we will be absolutely adding those to our lineup for 2025. So we have done just about an hour. Can you believe an hour's already flown by? Before we wrap up, cool. Tina, I know, right? Yeah. Tina, I'm going to ask you a quick question, and it's got to be quick. Do you have one thing that you feel was the weirdest, like the moment that you knew you didn't live in the US anymore? Do you have one thing top of mind? And I'm giving you, Todd, minutes to think about it. So
pretty much all the restaurants close right after lunch, and therefore there's like a food gap between getting lunch and getting dinner that it was hard. I was always hungry in that weird time. So yes, that was a weird one. Yes.
The food gap. Okay, Todd.
Gap.
Damn it, Tina, you took that away from me. Yeah, it's the food gap, and I tell you what, and some of the shops I like to frequent, which are local shops, and like I said, they believe in family and stuff. Like I said, going home for lunch and being home with the family, not eating on the job per se. So wanting to add to the local economy, I like to go to certain places and they close down in that space between
You have
like
to
3
plan
and
around
6.
lunches. Yes.
Yeah,
And
plan around
nothing is going to happen in those 3 or
Nope.
4 hours. So know that when you come here, that's just not
Yes.
going to happen. That's family time. That's
It's perfect.
and that's
You
it.
actually lead me right into the fact that when you're looking to move to Portugal, if you're looking for that pace of life change, you will get it, because you cannot force the American pace into
Nope.
Portugal. You really want to
No.
embrace changing it, slowing it down, taking it step by step, and embracing the national holiday calendar. I still am working through all of the holidays that Portugal has. So
Yes.
on that note, I want to wish both of you a very merry and happy holiday. And thank you to everyone that joined us and have been tuning in to our sessions. We are available. We're Portugal the Place. If you want to get a hold of us, just schedule a call. And if you have any questions and didn't get something answered, just drop us a message and we are happy to set up a call with you and talk you through how you can move to Portugal as well. Thank you both. Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you,
Bye.
Colleen.
Bye. Bye
Bye.
now.